Hello. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the For Animals, For Earth show. This is going to be episode number 58 when it comes out. It is how to start a sustainable closet. And I'm joined by Lesley-Anne Pereira, who is a fashion blogger over at Style Me Sustainably. So, hi, Lesley-Anne.
Hi.
Hi, I am so excited to have you here to chat today. Lesley-Anne and I were just talking about how this is a fun topic and it's just a
Mhm.
fun lighthearted episode. And I'm excited to do that because we were saying like not all of the episodes that I do are around lighthearted topics. And not that this is a lighthearted topic because it's not fully a lighthearted topic, but at least
Mhm.
style and fashion and finding fun in it is. And that's the goal of our conversation today is how to take what could be a little bit heavy, which is finding sustainable and ethical fashion in our lives and turn it into something that is actually
Yeah.
doable and approachable and lighthearted and fun, like bringing the fun back into fashion, right?
Yes. Yes, 100%. Especially like because there's just so much fashion going on, it can be a little overwhelming. But yeah, no, I'm so excited. Thank you for having me. So I know this is a long time coming, so I'm excited that it's finally here.
It is a long time
Yeah.
coming. So Lesley-Anne and I met last spring. So it's
Yeah.
been like probably 6 months. We met through Jay. So if you all remember Jay,
Mhm.
she was on the show in episode number 36. And she and I got to talking about like, what is our why? What drives
Mhm.
us to continue to want to do life a little bit harder in order to just live more consciously on this planet. And through that conversation, we were talking about our whys, and we decided we wanted to start a clubhouse room and start talking about that more. And then Lesley-Anne was friends with Jay, and Lesley-Anne
Yeah.
ended up joining us. And so the three of us ran a clubhouse room for a couple of months last spring where we would jump on every week and just chat and support each other in this journey around sustainability and just how to keep going. So that's how we met, and decided that we would love to do this episode about starting a sustainable closet because it's not that easy to go from learning and realizing all of the atrocities that do exist in the fashion industry to changing out your closet and building it and feeling like you can be proud of what's in your wardrobe and what you're wearing. And that's not an easy thing. So that's something you help people with. And I think maybe we can start with just your story a bit. So, like, how did you end up first learning about kind of this darker side of the fashion industry? And what was your journey with all of this?
Yeah, so I've always kind of wondered, like I remember going to department stores and being just looking around and seeing this mass of clothing or going to like the infamous like Forever 21 and just seeing like all these clothes and I would always ask myself like where do they all go at the end of the season or what's going on with all these clothes? So I just always kind of had it in the back of my head. But then the good thing that came out of quarantine and being isolated was I was like, okay, this is a time to like actually go into my interests and figure something out. And I've always loved fashion. And so randomly, I don't know if it was like fate or something, but I was on just scrolling through social media, Instagram, and I found this course that was just talking about what are sustainable development goals. So it wasn't necessarily directed with fashion, but just in general of sustainability, of the environment. And I thought, well, why not? I have the time. I'm going to take this course and just I was hooked. I kept going and researching more and I was like, well, here's something I'm actually like really passionate about. Found something I was passionate about and I researched and here I was. I felt like I was back in school and it felt really cool to just, actually have like assignments for some reason. Like it felt fun. And so, yeah, and from there, I just thought, well, I've always wanted to start a blog. And so let's get this going and really understand what the problems are. And I feel like it's not talked about enough, especially when it comes to fashion. You see only the kind of the glitz and glamour of what fashion gives us. And you don't really understand that behind that, a majority of it is this mass production, there's modern day slavery, there's environmental disasters that are happening. And you don't ever really hear about that. So I thought this is the time for me to kind of just give my voice, even if it's just me, just a small voice. I think I can at least hopefully connect with somebody. And yeah, that's kind of how it just kind of accumulated and grew and grew. And now it's something that I'm always like I'm always thinking about it somehow. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting with the fashion industry. I remember when I first started selling clothing back in 2014,
Yeah.
and I was buying from children's clothing makers and reselling. And going into kind of the fashion district and going into these shops, it was the first time that I started to kind of lift the veil from what you see in these beautiful showrooms and start to see a little bit more of like what the reality actually is of fashion.
Mm-hmm.
And then you start to think about the factories and just what's happening in other countries for sure, and even in our own country. And it's interesting how it's such a drastic difference between this glitz and glamour of the fashion industry and then just literally like minutes before where that piece of clothing was being created. And it's really such a drastic difference that we just never see and never think of when we're talking about all this like high fashion and beauty and glamour and glitz. And yeah, I
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's just it's almost like for someone who like me, like I've always just admired fashion and loved it. And it was like almost like a stab to the chest to hear and to really realize that something that you really love has all these issues. And so it in a way kind of like motivates you, especially if you're really into fashion, to be like, no, there can be other ways. There can be ways that this is a good thing and it's not just so harmful and just so destructive. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. I wrote down a quote that you said at some point, which was, I love fashion way too much to just let it become the villain. And I don't
Oh
know
my
where that
gosh.
came from, but I wrote it when I was researching for our episode at some point. And so when I pulled this up, this week, I was like, oh, look, I love this quote. I love fashion way too much to just let it become the villain. And I think it's so well said because there really is like a way that we can still tap into all of the good things that fashion brings to the world, right? Because it's like it getting dressed up and putting thought into what we wear and how we look, it really does like directly feed into our confidence and the way we show up in the world and the energy we bring to the world and the people around us. Like, I really do think fashion also can have a really positive impact on the world.
Yes, yes, absolutely. My mom actually like instilled it in me from a young age. She's like, always dress how you want to be, how you want to feel, how you want to be presented. And it's going to change how people interact with you, how you see yourself, your confidence. And it's always so important. That's why I love fashion. It's just like you can really like tell your story of like who you are as a person, without being like, hi, my name is so and so and this is me and this is what I like. And so it's so impactful in that way. And so it needs to be um, it needs to be cherished a little more and cherished better in a way. So yeah, I hope that with more, as companies grow and they become more hopefully sustainable. I know we use that word so much, but it's it's important that companies understand that in a way we need clothing, not just to like, obviously covers ourselves, very basic human needs, but like we need clothing in order to really show expression, and we should be doing it in a right way.
Mm. You said we need to do it better and in a right way. Can you elaborate more on what that is for you? Like, what do you believe is how we can do it better?
Yeah, I think the easiest way for someone, for an everyday person, is to really understand what it takes to make our clothes.
Mm.
So looking at the tags, I remember looking at clothing tags, and I'm like, what is viscose? What is really polyester? What is nylon, or all this? And I would just be like, okay, there's a percentage. I guess that's how it is. But when you really look into it, polyester is plastic, viscose, plastic, those things, spandex, plastic. So I think it's just understanding those little details of what makes our clothes will kind of change your mind about it. And seeing something that's 100% cotton versus something that's 100% polyester, you're going to hopefully choose the cotton item versus the polyester item. So I think that's kind of the easiest for me. And then shopping wise is hard, very, very hard. And but what's nice, I think I don't want to use the word trend because trends sometimes end.
Mm.
But it's this idea that people are starting to reuse more. They're going to thrifting, which is really great and a great way to prolong clothes that we already have. So there's like multiple avenues, but I think that the easiest is just really understanding what our clothes are and what environmental impact that they really have on us. Because one t-shirt it takes crazy amounts of water and like dyes, and it's very important to know what that means.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's shocking when you hear it, right? And when you read it and when you see it. And there are so many resources out there to learn this type of stuff. Like you said,
Yes.
like viscose, you can go read like what exactly is that and what's the
Mm-hmm.
process for that and what are some alternatives. What are your favorite resources? You mentioned that you did a course at the beginning. Was that Fashion
Mm-hmm.
Revolution?
Yes. So it was, I looked up Fashion Revolution. I loved it because, yes, it was related to fashion, but it also talked about all the sustainable development goals. I believe there's, I think, 17 goals that, world leaders are trying to go for. And it ranges from water use to labor to land use, all that kind of thing. So it's just, yeah, it was a great course. It taught me everything. It taught me about like specific events, like the Raza Plaza, if I'm correct. What happened there, and that interesting story of how it kind of created this movement and to like help workers and workers' rights. So it was a great course, and I really recommend it for anyone. It doesn't have to be just related to fashion. If you're interested in sustainability, it's a great course for that. And it's free. And that's the great thing, is that there are free templates online that you can look at and just really educate yourself that way. And yeah.
Yeah, Fashion Revolution. So I took the same course and
Okay.
I don't remember when, but I thought it was so good. And they had another course that I took a couple of years prior that was it was the one where you see the signs like who made my clothes.
Yes.
That the whole fashion revolution movement is so incredible, and like their classes, I just like they blow me away. They're so high quality, so well done, so relatable, and they really help us as consumers like just learn and like figure out how we as individuals can navigate this whole thing. um yeah, like I can't, yeah, I love them so much. Like I can't recommend it enough. So for anyone listening, Fashion Revolution is the nonprofit. And I think, I know the website where you find their courses, at least sometimes, is called Future Learn. I don't know if it's futurelearn.com or futurelearn.org, but I'll link to it in the show notes. But yeah, for sure, anyone who's listening that is like interested, that's a great place. Absolutely agree. I love that
Yeah.
organization.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely. Yeah. Future Learn. That's the one. I also took another one on Future Learn that was talking about understanding luxury fashion and what that means in response to just like how luxury kind of sets the tone for a lot of fashion in like fast fashion. And it was also another interesting. So if you're interested, it's a luxury. I think it's called Understanding Luxury Fashion, but also a really great course.
Ooh, yeah, that sounds
Mhm.
cool. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna have to look for that one too. So after we've learned and we're in this deep dark hole of,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, like everything's awful around fashion, what do I do? Where do you recommend someone start with their own closet? Like, how did you decide what's in your closet now?
Yeah, I like to take a fun approach with this because I know it can be so overwhelming looking at your closet and just being like, okay, well, what do I keep? What do I give away? What is just unfortunately have to be put in the trash? So I kind of make a whole day of it. So I, get my comfy clothes on, I get my favorite drinks or whatever, and I make a day of it and I put my favorite music on and I go through each of my items. I actually just did this recently and I put everything on. I put it on and I ask myself, is it something that I really, really love? Is it something that I put it on and I walk out the door that I'm going to be like, I feel my best? And if it's not, unfortunately, it's time to give away. It's time to, give away to friends, to family, to just to charity, whatever you need to do. Um, and I just kind of go through that. So it's a process, and it's not something that has to be done all in one day. That I always, because like I said, it can be overwhelming, especially if you have a lot of clothing. Um, so yeah, I do that and I just make sure that whatever I do keep, does it still fit me well? That's another thing because having clothing that is maybe a little too tight or a little too big, it's just going to sit there. It's going to accumulate and it's not going to move. You're never going to put it on and you're never going to feel 100% when you wear it. And so it sometimes breaks my heart, but like you have to in a way give it up. But I think once you do have like your core clothing, the ones that you really want to keep, I think from there it's almost like a job to make sure that it's well taken care of, so you're washing it properly, that if it needs to be repaired, it can be repaired. If you need it tailored, you can get it tailored. I love going to the tailor because when something fits you just right and just perfectly, it makes a difference in so much. And so those are my kind of like initial tips that you have to do. And um, yeah, I know sometimes it can be almost a little emotional because you're just like, well, what do I have left if nothing fits me or if I don't really love everything? And I think that's actually a great opportunity to think about, well, maybe I can make a certain list of what I need rather than just having this abundance of everything. And I think that's really important when it comes to having a sustainable closet is having the items that you really need and that you really want in your closet rather than just like I have this random shirt that I wore once, you know.
Mm.
Um, so I think that's the best initial start for any closet.
Yeah, it's interesting. There were so many things in what you said. I know one of them one of the things I was thinking, which goes back to the beginning of our conversation, which is where fashion can be a force for good, is when it helps us to feel more confident about ourselves when we go out into the world, and therefore we're operating at a more positive, like higher energy, and that is how we treat the people around us. And if we're wearing clothes that we feel a little subpar about, then that's going to be the energy that we walk out in as well. And that's something that I've really had to like kind of push myself, because I do not like letting go of clothes. I mean, so many things in my closet have been there. I mean, since high school. I'm 42 years old and I have clothing that I wore in high school in my closet because I just don't want to let it go. And, you know, some of it I do still wear and it comes back around. But I think there's quite a few pieces that don't fit, obviously. And there's a lot of pieces that don't fit even, you know, from 10 years ago that I keep holding on to that I just feel so close to getting back into. And I actually just went through my closet this week too and finally like pulled that stuff out and said like, okay, you're probably not getting back into this. It's been like 6 years, you know, and I put it in a staging area. So that's like something that I do. Like I put it in all the clothes that I think it can separate from. I put them in this like staging area. And then that way, if I do decide I want them, I can go back into them. And if after 3 months I haven't touched them, then I know that I can go ahead and try to sell them or donate them or swap them or whatever.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, I have that pile in my room too, where I'm like, well, I don't want to completely part ways with it just yet. So I'll think about it. And that's another great point. Yeah. Put aside the clothing. And if you're after 3, 4 months and you feel like you're like, okay, yeah, this is not going to work, then you can really feel confident that, okay, I'm giving it up and it's not just something that I'm just throwing out. So that's another really great point. And yeah, something that I should do more often, because sometimes I can be like, no, okay, this isn't working. I need to replace it with something better. But I think that's also another challenge, is that sometimes you get a little too, I guess, like a little too happy, which is being like, oh, okay, well, time to give this away. Now I can go get something new. And the idea is that, I mean, yes, you can get something new, but make sure when you do get something new that it's complementing the closet that you do already have. So you want to find something that that can be worn, I guess, multiple ways, or that is a little more versatile than, say, this like random sparkly shirt you may have or something like that. Not saying those are bad, but just you have to be a little more conscious of that. And I think that's the biggest thing, is really taking a step back and thinking about what you have and seeing how you can fill in the gaps of what you don't have.
Yeah, I really liked that tip of what you shared earlier too, of creating a list. So like really knowing your closet really, really well, and knowing like the outfits that you can put together and what's actually missing, so that shopping, as you were talking, I was just envisioning shopping being more about going in for something specific instead of walking into an H&M and being like, ooh, this looks good, this looks good, this looks good. Which, I mean, for me personally, I used to shop that way that you're describing, where I was looking for something specific. And then I think once fast fashion became such a big part of my life, it was all about the like, ooh, what am I attracted to when I walk into the store? And I need to try that and try that and try that. And, and I go in with like 20 pieces of clothing to try on. And I think over the years, and then once I started caring about sustainability, it became even harder because I couldn't like go to stores and shop anymore. And so over the years, I feel like I kind of lost my sense of style and putting outfits together, because it became more about like the trend and that looks good, that looks good, that looks good, instead of like from the inside out of taking my closet and saying, okay, these things would look good together. What do I actually need?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the majority of it, I know I'm guilty of it, where you fall into the trends of what looks good. It's skinny jeans one day, it's flared jeans the next day, it's crop tops this day, it's longer sleeves, that kind of idea. So because of fast fashion, and I noticed this in myself as well, that since there's so much going on, you don't really understand your own personal style. And I think that takes away from the funness, I guess you could say, of fashion, and that, I guess, the uniqueness of fashion. Because when there's so much going on, there's so much like stimulus going on, that you kind of just, I'm going to take this one, take that one, take that one, and then see what works and what doesn't work. But I think that's when like conscious fashion comes back, and sustainable fashion, is that you really think about, is this something that I really want? Is it something that I'm not just following the next person? I'm making this something unique and my own. And like you say, it kind of like takes the back of how we used to shop. Or like, I know my mom talks to me all the time. She's like, yeah, I'd go shopping once every 5-6 months. And then I grew up almost going shopping once a month and being like, okay, I want this, I want that, I want this. And I just remember feeling almost overwhelmed in my own closet, because I was like, I don't even know what to wear anymore, even though I have all that famous thing of, I have nothing to wear, but you have like 100 pieces of clothing, right? And so I think that's why everyone may get a little frustrated with not knowing what to wear, because they haven't really understood what they really like to wear. And so it's more, yes, trends are great. They're fun. I love them too. But I think it's important to always kind of like maybe take pieces of the trend and like put it back into your own personal thing, rather than just completely going into that trend and sacrificing all what you have already. And then, so if that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, no, I think
Okay.
it does, because I was going to ask you, like, what tips do you have for people to figure out what it is that they love, or what their personal style is? Do you have any thoughts for people on how they might do that?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. And I think really the best thing is just going to a store and kind of just shop, like looking around and seeing what really, like, what's that one item you just like, okay, wow, I need to try this on. I need to try it on. And try it on, see how it feels. Does it fit your body well? Does it give you this kind of like, oh, that's me? Like, where, you have to really like see that and feel that. And it's kind of trial and error in that sense. So if you're not really into skinny jeans, try them out, and then try wider leg jeans. If you prefer darker colors, try it out. See how darker colors feel on you, or lighter colors. If you like dresses, if you don't like dresses, if you like suits, if you like, it's more, it's kind of like almost growing up. You have to try everything to really understand, okay, I like this, and you can check off what you don't like. And even if, and here's the thing, is even though trends, they come, and if you don't like following a trend, or you don't have to. There's no person or social thing that you have to follow a trend, that you have to be fitting in these certain kind of clothes. So my philosophy is just always wear what you want to wear. Don't feel subjugated to fit into something. And that's the great thing with fashion. It's like, and it always comes back. Now we're all looking like we live in the 70s again, flare jeans, crop tops, and it's fun. So you never know, they come and go, trends and come and go. So just really focus on what you want to do and what you want to wear and how you want to present yourself.
Mm. I was picturing as you were describing that, like your day with your closet where you get your little glass of wine or champagne or tea or coffee, whatever you want. I mean, actually, it probably lasts all day. So maybe coffee and then champagne
Yeah.
and then coffee again. But
Yeah.
going through the closet and just trying everything on and trying different combinations and like almost keeping a notebook there to like say, yeah, this kind of jean is what I like. This kind of color is what I like. This pattern is what I like. And just like starting to like really track it so that we can maybe see when those patterns pop back up for us that we do really like something like this. And it's a cool idea.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm more of a visual learner, so I just kind of, like I said, I just put everything on and I kind of just take mental notes of, okay, I know this pattern looks great with this pattern. This color looks great with this color. Um, and then yeah, like if you like writing things down, write things down and like almost make like a grocery list kind of for, when you go shopping. And honestly, it makes shopping more enjoyable when you know what you're trying to look for. Because the worst is going to like a store and just being like, I don't know what I want. I guess I want a pair of pants. I guess I want this shirt. Um, but it's always when you have like a mission, it's always good. It's
Mm-hmm.
always like I got this, and yeah, it's a little more enjoyable. At least for me, it is a little more enjoyable.
Yeah, and if for me, then the pieces last longer as well because the stuff that it'll come in and out of my closet so quickly when I'm just kind of going by whim of this looks good or that looks good and not really being very planful. The pieces don't last long in my closet either because I look at them and go, wait, that doesn't look good. Like why did I think that looked good? Like yeah. Definitely, I think. And I do think there's a lot to be said too for time saving with a streamlined closet. Like if there's less in there and you kind of know what goes together, almost like the whole capsule wardrobe idea, right? But it doesn't even have to be a capsule, but just a streamlined wardrobe, I think also makes life less stressful. It's just easier
Oh,
to find
yes.
something to wear in the morning and go.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm sure everyone can, relate to the times where they wake up late and have, to get dressed super, super quick. And it's so easy to just be like, okay, I know this goes with this and that goes with that. So I can get ready and go for the day. Um, but yeah, but when you are shopping again, like make sure that I think it's so hard to actually shop nowadays because you go to the mall and it's all department stores. You go to like say Macy's or JCPenney's or something like that, some where they have all these various brands that you're like, oh, where do I even start from there? And I think it's you have to kind of put in the work. You have to research these companies. You have to see what they're doing, if they're doing anything at all in regards to sustainability. And um, yeah, so that's why I think it's actually kind of fun when you do find a company, a clothing company or a shoe company that already has these like regulations and how they make their clothing or they make their shoes, and it kind of makes it easier in that sense. You're okay, I know what I'm buying, I know the kind of company I'm supporting, and it's been nice to see more and more of those companies being so transparent too. And that's another thing that you want to look for is transparency and how are your clothes being made? Are they being made with right materials? Are they being made by people who are being paid correct wages? Is it, are they in regards to like environments? Are they harming, communities? Are they harming rivers? Are they harming animals? Um, there has to be more transparency in that way. And when you do find companies like that, it's kind of it's very exciting. It's like yeah, like you want to support them and do support them. I think that's all we can really do, especially when we're creating a sustainable closet, is when you do go find those places, support them, spread the word, because they are trying to make they're like almost in a way pioneer companies that are trying to make the difference.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure. And they are like taking the hard way, and so many of the
Yes.
companies don't make it. And yeah, I mean, I do feel like it comes back to literally all of us supporting them and helping them make it, if we find a brand that we love. And I agree with you, like, there is nothing better than finding a brand that makes something that you absolutely love, and the whole story behind it is really good. I mean, the energy in that is just huge. It like feels so much better to put the clothing on and walk out the door. Like, even that energy conversation we were having earlier, it's like it takes it to another notch because you're doing something good in the world. And like you said, talk about it and share it, tell people the brand, where it came from. Like, yeah, for sure. I think there's so much that can change just by doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. And and like you're saying, like I always think of like clothes when they're made by like an artisan or handmade, it has a story. It has like you can be like, yes, I have this shirt. It took, yeah, I don't know, days and days and days to make, and it was all handmade, and it elevates the quality of the garment, of whatever it is you're wearing. And it's a luxury good, and it's a different kind of luxury. So it's not like, a top brand like Prada or something like that, but it's a different kind of luxury that I think people don't really notice as a luxury. And yeah, so that's why it's very cool when you can find those kind of companies too as well.
Yeah, that is such a
Yeah.
cool way to think about it, because it's actually more of a luxury probably than the big Prada brand or Versace or whatever.
Hmm.
I think like the smaller handmade item, as well as just like knowing all the way back to the plant that grew out in the field that created the fiber that went into it, and then the people's hands who made the fiber. There's so much to like a piece of clothing that we're wearing that is such a cool, amazing story. And to your point, really does elevate
Yeah.
that level of luxury for sure. And it's unique. It's more
Yeah.
unique, right? It's like you're not going to be running into other people at the party wearing the same thing that you're wearing.
Yeah, I mean that's so cool. It's like it's a talking piece. It's you're wearing something that is almost like an art piece, and that's to me. I'll geek out about that forever. So I'm just I think it's very cool, and I think more people should realize that they can also have that kind of feeling of like pride or something when they do wear their clothing. It's not just a t-shirt that was made from plastic, or something that was not, but that was made by people that aren't being treated correctly. So it's there's so much more to making clothing that people realize. I think sometimes we kind of forget that a lot of our stuff is handmade, or if it is in a factory, it's in a factory that has poor environmental health conditions. And um, so it's sad, but also like there is change happening, and that's all we can really do is focus on that change and continue that change going forward.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And one thing that I did just want to touch on that came to mind while we were talking about this whole kind of like luxury and slow fashion feel is that I know a lot of times the thought can be, well, it's too expensive. Like, I can't afford those things. And yes, a lot of those things are more expensive, but there are alternatives, like such as just getting one piece and not getting 15 this year, you know, or secondhand, and looking for different secondhand shops where you can find things that are unique, that were made with better quality because they've made it through multiple lifetimes, you know. So I don't know, are there any other thoughts that you would like to add to that, just around yes, like some of these brands can be more expensive to buy them brand new right off the bat, but ideas for people that are saying kind of like, okay, I can't afford that. I mean, I know I just shared a couple of ideas. Is there anything else that you'd want to add to that?
Yeah, no, yeah, it's always a difficult question. I think that's probably, for me, honestly, one of the hardest questions to answer, because I grew up more middle class. I mean, I don't have all this extra money to be spending like $100 or on a pair of pants or something. It's not something very common, but I think the idea is that, yes, it's more expensive, but you want to remember that you're consciously buying something. So it's just like, how do I say this? It's easier to go to a fast fashion place and pick 5 items and have it be $100 rather than get one item for $100. But you have to remember, you have to think about your morals. And do you want to support a company that has clothing that probably won't last very long? So it's almost like an investment, versus something that is made with good quality materials that will last. It's probably more worth the higher expensive, a higher price item. But again, fashion buying shouldn't be so, I guess, frivolous as it is now. Like, going back to that comment of my mom buying something once every 6 months versus me, learning basically buying once every month. We need to be more conscious of how we buy and when we buy. And so, but yeah, like thrifting is great. I love thrifting. It's so much fun. Find little places. I think it's a great opportunity to really figure out style as well. Yeah, thrifting, online thrift stores, it's becoming a little easier now. And there are cheaper options, especially if you can't afford that. And, you can't, with sustainable clothing, my biggest thing is, you don't want to judge people for what they can afford. If they can afford, lower price items, that's fine. But how they take care of it, and if they keep it for quite a long time until it's like completely gone, dead, that is better than just being like, okay, well, I'm just going to throw it out and go to the store tomorrow and get another pair. So there's different avenues, to how you can really make a difference.
Yeah, for sure. And it really does look different for every single one of us, right? And I think that list that you were describing of your closet, and knowing like when you purchase something new, you're purchasing something that in general is pretty versatile, can work with a lot of different things, and is good quality so it can last a long time. So then you end up kind of taking it down to cost per day. And a lot of times, something that's more expensive is actually going to be with us for 15, 20 years,
Right.
and be used in many, many, many different outfits. And if it's not, it's passed on and somebody else can actually use it. And it can, yeah, just provide a lot of good in the world all around. So yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
So, I like to wrap up with one simple idea. So, one thing that you think listeners could do to help animals in the environment if they are motivated by this conversation.
Yeah, I was thinking about it, and I think, in regards to like the theme of fashion, is really understanding where your clothing comes from, and seeing if things are regulated. Like if you like wearing leather for a lot, or if you like wearing like wool, are they backed by regulations? Like I know with leather, there's the leather working group. See if there are practices and morals and how they treat animals and how they treat the environment in their process of making whatever clothing item it is. So it's to stay vigilant and to know that there are regulations happening, support them, and make sure that it's happening more often. It shouldn't be just, just for leather things, and all leather should be regulated. All wool should be regulated. Anything that has animal products in it should be regulated and should be monitored, and make sure that things are being treated correctly and with respect.
Yeah. Yep. I love that. And we can link to some of those regulations in the show notes too. I'll get some different ideas from you. And what's the best way for everyone to find your blog and to get in touch with you if they want to reach out?
Yeah, my Instagram is just one word, Style Me Sustainably. That's a great way to reach out to me. Email is same. It's one word, Style Me Sustainably.contact@gmail. Those are the best ways. But there's also Facebook too. I'm sure if you just look up my name, I'll pop up. But yeah, I mean, let me know if you have any questions or you want to talk. I'm totally down to talk about fashion anytime, any day. It's my favorite.
I love that so much. And the website is stylemesustainably.com,
Yes, yes.
which is a good landing place if you all want to like see more detail about everything that Lesley-Anne is talking about. So yeah, thanks so much for coming on and chatting with me about this. I feel like I just I'm excited about fashion and, navigating my own journey, as everybody knows, as I try to figure it out for myself. And I think, if anything, I hope that this conversation is inspiring. If you're listening and you're kind of like trying to figure out sustainable fashion for yourself, I hope that this was inspiring and like helps you know that just start. There's not a perfect way. Just start and start paying attention to things, looking into things more deeply, like you said. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. No, thank you. Yeah, and have fun with it. Just because it's sustainable, it's not boring. It's not. It can be very fun, and it can be very beneficial to how you feel about yourself and how you view the environment and the world. Everything, really, it's all connected. You'd be surprised how connected it is. But yeah, no, thank you, Brandy. I'm so glad we got to do this. I've been anticipating this for a long time, so I'm so glad.
I know. I'm so glad we finally pulled it off.
Yes, finally.
Yes. So for everyone, the show notes will be at foranimalsforearth.com/podcast/58. And please comment. Let us know if you have any questions or any thoughts to add. We love to hear them. So we will see you all soon. Bye.